At the 2014 World Economic Forum, the United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon announced that girls are the key to ending global poverty. No one could agree with that more than our next guest. At the age of 12, while visiting her mother's native Argentina, Denise Dunning saw something that stayed with her ever since. She witnessed a poor young girl, not much older than herself, begging with a baby and a toddler in tow. This early experience was the impetus behind creating Rise Up. Through its various programs, the lives of more than 115 million children and women have been transformed around the globe. One of these programs is called Girls Behind the Camera, an intense workshop which encourages these young women to take a stand and make a positive impact in their communities.
We are 6 girls who have come together to discuss the issues that are affecting us,
adolescent girls
in Malawi. I am an advocate for girls because I want to stop sex trade, because I want to abolish harmful traditional practices,
because I want to help girls stay in school, because I want to help girls to have better access for education,
because I want to stop domestic violence against girls,
because I want to end child marriage.
Denise Dunning knows firsthand that investing in girls' leadership and empowerment leads them to change their communities, their countries, and perhaps even the world. She's joining us now from San Francisco. We want to welcome you to Full Frame, Denise. Great to have you.
Thanks so much.
If you don't mind, go back in time. Tell us a little bit more about this episode that really kind of helped shape your advocacy in many respects.
Yeah, when I was about 12 years old, I was in Argentina with my parents, and we were on a train. It was Christmas Eve, and we were on a train going out of Buenos Aires to go visit family friends for the holidays. And as we pulled into a station about 20 minutes outside the city, the train doors opened, and at the far end of the train, I saw a girl step into the car. And I was 12, and she was maybe 14 or 15. And just a couple of years older than me, and she was carrying this baby and dragging a toddler along behind her, and they were dirty and poor and ragged. And I watched as this girl came down the length of the train and in every aisle stopped and asked for food and asked for money and asked for help. And I saw how in every single row of that train, people just looked away, and they didn't want to see her, and they didn't want to help her. And I remember feeling so incredibly angry that there was nothing that I could do, and so helpless and so ashamed. And I vowed on that, that night a long time ago, that if there was ever anything that I could do for a girl like that, a girl who was so much like me, but in such a different place in the world, that I would. And so fast forward several years, and I had the chance to start an organization called Rise Up in 2009, which advances health, education, and equity for girls, youth, and women everywhere. And since we got started, have been able to advocate for 124 laws impacting 115 million girls, youth, and women in the world.
Being on that train, obviously you recognize there's a problem with this girl, but to see it ripple across the globe, I mean, you see it in so many places. I mean, is it astonishing to you what you see?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Right now we're working in 11 different countries, and the challenges facing girls are enormous. There are 600 million girls right now who are living in poverty. So what that means is they don't get to go to school. They don't get to see a doctor when they need one. They often don't get enough to eat every day. They often live in silence and in fear and in violence. And so these are the realities facing girls. And what we've seen at the same time is that these girls are not victims. These girls are amazing leaders and incredible agents of change. And by giving them the tools and the resources and the support that they need, they can become incredible leaders for their own communities and their own countries.
So, it's easy to kind of think, oh, geez, they're trapped with such a huge burden. And yet you see the power of these young girls. Can you talk to me about that dichotomy?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. These girls are facing enormous challenges. In Malawi in particular, more than half of girls are married before the age of 18. And oftentimes, people don't bat an eye when a 12-year-old girl is married off to a man who's, twice or 3 times her age. And these are the realities facing poor girls and poor families. And at the same time, what we've seen is that these girls are incredibly strong and resilient, and that they can stand up and speak out for their rights and the rights of other girls in their communities.
Well, Malawi is a success story in many respects for what you've done. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially what we do at Rise Up is we're, in a way, angel investors in the social sector. So we find visionary local leaders like Faith and Joyce in Malawi who were just getting started, and we gave them the training, the leadership development, the funding, and the networks to be able to achieve much larger scale impact. So we supported them to launch a campaign called I Will Marry When I Want, which brought together 200 girls to learn about their rights and really decide what it was that they wanted for themselves and their communities. And so this group of girls was able to advocate with village chiefs, and they've gotten now 60 village chiefs to pass laws making it so that if a man marries a girl under the age of 21, he has his land taken away and has to pay a fee of 7 goats. So through this girl-led campaign, they now have been able to protect thousands of girls from child marriage. And one of the girls who was part of that campaign, an amazing young woman named Memory Banda, who you see in that film, really led much of that charge that resulted in a building of momentum that over time ended up with passage of a national law in Malawi just last year that outlaws child marriage at the national level. So, from going and just meeting 2 young women, Faith and Joyce, and giving them a bit in the way of extra support and funding, they were able to go from reaching just a few girls in their community to now having legal protection in place for 4 million girls in Malawi that guarantees that girls are not going to be forced into early marriage and can really stay in school and pursue their hopes and their dreams for their own futures.
I guess in some respects, when you think about nonprofits and trying to make an impact, I see it as kind of the outside game, the inside game. You're on the outside. You're in San Francisco, coming in and trying to change things. But it really isn't successful unless you have the inside game. You connect with these kids, and they understand the dynamics a lot better than you can. Absolutely. Talk to me about that and why that's so critically important in what you're doing.
Yeah, it's key to the work that we do. So, what we do is find visionary local leaders who are doing important work on a small scale and give them the support that they need to achieve much larger scale impact. And the reason that we've created this model is because these leaders know what the realities are and know what the challenges and the opportunities are. And so by having the extra support from us in terms of learning how to advocate for larger scale change and giving them the funding that they need to launch these campaigns, they're able to achieve so much greater impact than, we sitting here in San Francisco. It wouldn't make sense for us to come in and try to tell them what the priorities should be. It's really about finding those visionary local leaders and giving them the support that they need.
What about giving them the voice and storytelling as a capacity to help them achieve these successes that you're talking about?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. The story that you mentioned about our work in Guatemala, we started there in 2010. And at the time, we were working with a group of girls who, indigenous Mayan girls who had never had the chance to learn about their rights or become leaders in their community. And these girls just grabbed it, and they launched a campaign asking for their mayor to support girls' health and girls' education. And, the first meeting that they had, the mayor literally laughed out loud and told them that they should go home and not waste his time. But these girls were strong, and they were resilient, and they actually used media really strategically. So they went on local TV and did interviews in the local press and local radio and really talked about why it's important to invest in girls, and got local leaders and religious leaders and parents and indigenous leaders in a dialogue about why girls' education and health is so important. And so they were able over time to win the mayor over so that he actually passed legislation that he co-wrote with the girls supporting girls' health and education, and put money out of his annual budget to support those services for girls.
We've been talking about education. We've got a clip right now, and I want to run this clip real quick, and then on the backside we can talk a little bit more about it because it gets to the key of what you're talking about, education. So let's look at this.
Great.
In Malawi, there are many challenges which girls face at school. When I was a little girl, going to school scared me. My teacher used to hit me. He would make me stay after school and clean. There were stories of girls being raped in the bathroom. When my teacher touched the breast of one of my classmates, I became very mad. I told him he couldn't do that to us. We were there to learn. I did not want to clean the classroom. I did not want to be scared anymore. This is why I became a girl leader. I approached my head teacher to influence change despite being young. A girls' welfare committee was chosen and policies were implemented. I conducted meetings with my fellow girls to educate them on their rights and how to become leaders to ensure change at the school. Let's hold hands and stop girls' school dropouts.
Great message, but it shows just how important education is, but in many respects difficult too, which I don't think most of us think about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There are 66 million girls right now who are not in school around the world. And that is a tremendous gap that we need to be filling, because these are girls who, if they have the chance to go to school, you know, if 10% more girls in a country go to school, that country's GDP goes up by 3%. So that just gives you a sense that, you know, not just for those girls themselves and their families is education so critical. It's actually key for national development and global development.
Talk to us about leadership and creating these leaders.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, what we really do is find visionary local leaders who have potential and have passion and really want to create a change. And we give them the leadership development, the funding, and the support to be able to create much larger scale impact. So, you know, one of my favorite stories is a woman that we started working with in Liberia who, at the time that we met her, had the only safe home for girls in Liberia. So 75% of girls and women in Liberia have been victims of violence during the conflict and the post-conflict. And this woman, Rosanna, had a safe home where she gave 25 girls a chance to go to school, a safe place to live. And when she became a part of Rise Up, she learned that there was no legal protection for girls whatsoever in Liberia. So she launched a campaign with support and funding from us, which led to passage of Liberia's national children's law, so guaranteeing girls access to healthcare services, education, outlawing child marriage, and other harmful traditional practices. So Rosanna was able to go from reaching 25 girls to now having legal protections in place for 2 million girls in Liberia. And to me, that really speaks volumes about the potential and the importance of investing in local leaders who know best what the solutions are and just need support from the rest of us to be able to achieve them.
Denise, thanks so much for joining us from San Francisco. Sure appreciate it.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Coming up next, how African women view tradition and change in the modern world.